Hello everyone, so today I'm here because it's around the end of May, and May is the month in which Springathon happened. So officially it was the first 2 weeks of May, but I kind of extended it to a bit longer. And I have not been trying to do prompts or anything, but it's something that I like to have in the back of my mind when I'm choosing books for a certain month, if there is a certain readathon that I identify with. And in this case I was able to read 3 books that kind of have a general theme that aligns with Springathon, so I thought I will talk about them. The first one I read is An African in Greenland by Tété-Michel, Kpomassie, and I actually read this for the Read Around the World project because the author is from Togo and he moved to Greenland at some point in his life. It was kind of a long life dream for him to move to Greenland, and it is not exactly a nature book. It's a non-fiction memoir of him getting to Greenland, but there is also a lot of part of it, so like I think 2/3 of it happens in Greenland, and we learn a lot about the culture of the people there, but also of hunting, and there is a lot of descriptions of the landscape there and the white snow and the permafrost and all of that, and there is also some photos of him in Greenland. Yeah, I think this qualifies enough. Yeah, basically this is about this man moving from Africa, from Togo, to Greenland through a series of steps. So at the beginning we learn how he discovered about Greenland when he was about like 15 or 16, and then he has to leave in a rush because of something that happened in the village, and then he kind of moves through several countries in Africa until he can make it to Europe, and then once he's in Europe, again several steps, several countries, until he finally arrives to Greenland. And I like that he just moved to Greenland because he had a passion for this place and he was very curious about the place, rather than, normally Africans moving to Europe because of money, economic concerns, or war, or whatever. This was more about someone exploring the world because they were curious, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I have to say, some of the things that happen in Greenland were very foreign to me, and I understand that that's Greenland culture, and I think it's there's nothing wrong with it, but yeah, it just felt really foreign to me, and I couldn't understand some of the things that happened. But overall, I think it was a good book. I enjoyed it, and yeah, I will recommend. The next one that I read that I think kind of fits with Springathon is Pod by Lolin Paul, and I have a full review of this in my channel because it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And this is about dolphins, so it's told from the perspective of a dolphin, and we follow her. She's a spinner dolphin, and spinner dolphins normally kind of dance to the music of the ocean. That's how it's described, but she does not perceive that music the same way, so she doesn't spin like the rest of the dolphins in her pod, so she decides to leave the pod, and then a lot of things happen outside that pod. She finds another pod in which they have shifted from a very matriarchal society to a very patriarchal one, and it's very oppressive and very violent, and so she has to experience that, and eventually what happens to her. And we also follow in smaller perspective other perspectives, like there's Google, who is another dolphin who was in an aquarium owned by the military or something like that to do tests on him. There is Fujifish and walrus, I think it's called. In the corals there is a remera, which is like kind of parasite fish that attaches to Ea, the main protagonist, at some point. So we do have several perspectives here and there from other animals. And I think that the thing that this book does the best for me was the dynamics of the dolphins and the whales and all the marine life that is portrayed here. I can see that the author did a lot of research about that, and I learned about some of their customs and stuff like that. The storyline and the plot felt very dramatic and over the top for me, so I didn't really enjoy the books as much, but I think the dolphin part is done quite well, and I think that's the part that aligns also the most with Springathon. And then the other thing that I will say, this has messages that are not subtle at all, and one of the messages is about the healthy oceans and the unhealthy ones, the pollution, the temperature changes, all of those, the hormones in the water, all of those things. We can see the effect of those things in the animals that we follow, and that's one of the main plot points as well. And yeah, so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, this could also be useful for you. As I said, the plot itself, the characters themselves, it's all very two-dimensional and very stereotypical, so I didn't actually like the book, but yeah, the part of the dolphins is good. So that's the second book that I read that fits within the themes of Springathon. And then the last one that I read is Landmark by Rowan MacFarlane. And this book is focused mostly on the language of nature. So the way that different cultures or different groups talk about nature and the words that they use to describe certain types of trees or certain types of landscape or things like that. And this was, so it was very detailed, it was very academic. After every chapter there was a glossary of terms, so coming from the Irish, the Welsh, the Old English terms related to the particular topic of the chapter, and there were like the chapters were like the water, the moors, the forests, things that, like different topics within nature, and then we have words to explain those things. And in the actual chapters were very much about how all of these different aspects of nature were portrayed in literature and how they were connected to the words that we use to describe them. And although I like the idea a lot, I found this book was very academic, as I said, very dense and not always approachable. And also I found that the book was focused more on the words and the literature part of things and less on the actual nature part of things. So personally, I don't gain a lot from seeing a list of different Old English words to describe different parts of a tree, for example. That's not something that excites me as much, and maybe I should have realized that when I picked up the book. But I thought it was going to be more about how different cultures perceive different parts of nature and how the words that they use are connected to that. But it's very like British based, mostly English, but very British based. So there's no that multicultural aspect to it. It's just how the English language and how the other British languages like Gaelic or Irish or Welsh describe nature. So for me it was just not the book for me, and again that's something more on me and less on the book. It's not what I thought it was gonna do, it's not what it was actually doing, and that's not the fault of the book. But I think that what the book is going to appeal to less people than than I thought, just because it's very niche and very focused on the language of nature. And of course there's people that would love that, but yeah, it's not what I thought it was gonna be, if that makes sense. And then the last book I wanted to mention is one that actually I haven't read, but it was in my list of things that I was interested in, and that was Eating to Extinction by Dan Saladino. And this is supposed to be about the world's rarest foods and why we need to save them. So basically more diversity within foods and within crops, within the things we eat, basically. And it sounds amazing. I have heard good things about it, and it was probably the one that I was the most excited about, but unfortunately it's quite chunky and I just didn't have the time, but I'm sure I will find the time to read it in the next few months. And I would love to know if you have read it, what you thought about it. But yeah, those are all the books that I was kind of reading and not reading for Springathon this year. Let me know if you have participated, if you have read anything nature related in the last month, and let me know your thoughts in any of the books I've talked about. And until next video, bye!